1, 2, 3, live.
A big hello to you. It's great to see you, and I do hope that you are well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir, and we've got a special guest in person this week. We've got Jonathan Newton, who you might remember from Hornby magazine.
Absolutely.
I think people have seen you at a lot of the shows, but also film producing as well is a big part of your life. So welcome to the show. And
it's good to be here. It's actually, I'm always surrounded by model trains, but I actually feel like I'm being haunted by them now. They're sort of looking at everything I do.
Yeah, because we're
and a teddy bear as well. I've got everything, evil eyes all around. It's wonderful.
That's my childhood teddy bear. He's technically about 2 weeks older than me. As you can see, he's had open brain surgery a few times. It's just somewhere to put him.
That's fine. Every layout needs a guardian.
Absolutely. So, it's your first time here. What do you think of Weir Yard?
I'm actually very impressed. This is actually really good. I've had the pleasure of being in several lofts before, taking photographs. Now, I was just saying before, one of the layouts coming up in the next week in the new issue, I shot on a loft. It's nice to see what people can achieve in any space, and what you've got here with lots of different trains running around in double O gauge, it's actually very impressive.
Yeah,
it's an enviable thing that people would love to have, actually.
Absolutely. So in the chat we've got Nigel Cole, Andrew Bettis, RG Models 86, Anthony, Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath, Andrew L, Patrick Ling, Leslie Gilpin Railways, Peter Jackson Cheadle Heath, Ryan Tune, Harry Sedgwick, Fly Mode Chairman 1, JTG Werewolf, Marcus Muggins, Rawstone Model Railway, and thank you so much, Jordan Hunter, for being a member for 7 months. Awesome Bricks says greetings all. Very interesting change of ownership at Harbin Hobbies. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
News to me.
News to me.
News to me.
So Simon Trains Model Railway Showcase says member for nearly a year. Oh, thank you so much for your support. Trevor's DT Trains. We've got a lot of people in. It's quite warm actually. The weather's
I'm going to bring a fan up in a moment.
I've got a fan down here. One of our big fans.
Yes.
That's a go. When it's warm, you just have to drink a bit more. That's all.
Yes. Which, for purposes of the almighty algorithm, this is grape juice,
medicinal.
Yeah, it's medicinal. Yeah, it's just grape juice. It's just one of those things that you just go. It just helps to just cool you down on a bit of a warm day.
It opens up the capillaries, shall we say?
And on that note,
we made a bit of a boo-boo, as you can probably tell. We were looking at clocks that were set to last week's time. For anybody who's not in the UK, this is the weekend. This is the crappy weekend where it moves forward an hour, not back. I like the one that moves back, so you get an extra hour in bed.
Well, that's very true, yeah. But on the plus side, you also get an extra hour of daylight when it moves forward, so swings and roundabouts. You know what I mean?
It pays you back at the end of the year.
Yeah, it does.
So, on that note, shall we have a word from our sponsors? Welcome to the Monday Club, your online model rail club for all the news, gossip, layout tours and more, with your host, broadcaster and model maker, Jennifer Kirk. The Monday Club is proudly sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre. Check them out at themodelcentre.com. The website features extensive stocks of new models as well as selective pre-owned items where you can track down that bargain you've always wanted. Pre-order with confidence all of the forthcoming models from all the manufacturers. TMC also offer a renumbering and renaming service so you can get the exact identity of locomotive that you want. Why not
to also check out their value weathering, or go for something incredibly special with their bespoke service, where you can choose from a more extensive weathered look right through to custom graffiti, either off the peg or to a design of your choice. Check out TMC today at themodelcentre.com and start your model journey. Welcome back, great to see you, and we're here live for the next 2 hours, and I've got with me Jonathan from Hornby magazine, and I think we first met actually not long after you'd taken over at the role from Richard Watson at Hornby magazine.
Yeah, we met at Statfold Barn.
Yes, I remember
back in
it well.
2023.
Absolutely, yes.
It was actually Richard who introduced us together.
He did, yes. How did you get into working with Hornby magazine? I think a lot of people always wonder, what's the trip and the fall that leaves you at working at a magazine?
It's a very, very weird set of circumstances that you never could have planned, actually. But for those of you who read the magazine or have seen things on Facebook, I built an O-gauge model railway called Newton Grove. It's 9 foot long, 18 inches wide, and I built it because I had a growing collection of O-gauge stock. I just wanted someone to display them that wasn't the shelf. And basically I thought to myself, well, I'll build a layout, and I did. And Mike Wilde, who was editor of Hornby magazine at the time, he's on a lot of Facebook pages, obviously looking for different layouts, and he approached me and said, I'd love to feature your layout. And I said, yep, I'm in Australia, but I'm a photographer, so if you're happy, I'll shoot my own photographs and provide you everything you need. Long story short, after it was published, he said to me, oh, look, you say in your article that you want to come to the UK one of these days. Well, keep in touch, because we might be able to use another photographer. So when I decided to move to the UK, I said, listen, Mike, I'm coming along. I'll be here on this particular day. I'll be based up in the northwest. He said, look, I need a freelancer to cover the area. Fantastic. So literally, I got into the country, and 3 days later, I was out in Colne shooting my first layout, and it just carried on from there. And then when Richard left to go work for a Curascale 7 months later, they put the job out on all the job sites and so forth. I applied for it, and it was down to me and somebody else, and I got it, which is...
It's what I mean. We really always say it's like a very, very
sliding doors.
It's kind of a whole bunch of different opportunities come up, and I always say take a chance, and you won't be sorry for what might have been. A huge thank you to 3B Rail. Very kindly donated £10 on the super chat for the biscuit fund, and we do have biscuits downstairs.
Well, we've got the grape water, but
grape
juice, yeah. But you need some biscuits with grape juice, don't you?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we've got some downstairs. So big hello, James Pett.
Oh,
we
by
do
the way,
approve.
A big hello to Phil from Making Tracks, who I know is watching tonight and probably laughing right now, and also Nikki and Keith as well, who are probably doing the exact same thing. So hello to the three of you.
Excellent. Yeah, and it's because you've not come. Well, you've come far, but not that far. You're based over in Keith.
West Yorkshire, around Keithley. Yeah, that's right.
So do you have quite an involvement with having the Keithley and Worth Valley Railway on your doorstep?
Yeah, I literally live a few streets away from there, so I get to not only be involved, and I also work as part of the marketing department, so I help the manager there doing some photography and some video every now and again. But, on a nice day, I can listen to the engines climbing up the hill. It's wonderful. It's great.
I can imagine, yeah, because there's something very evocative about the sound of a steam locomotive working hard.
There is. My dad is from Oldham, from Manchester, and he always used to tell me stories of being a kid in the 60s, having the trains going past near school, or what he could hear from Homer in the streets and so forth. So to sort of... whilst obviously the modern world is around us now, to sit in my house in West Yorkshire and listen to the engines, working hard up the hill, I can kind of understand what my dad may have experienced. It's wonderful.
So have you always had an interest in railways and in model roads? Because you grew up in Australia.
I did, yeah.
Which is...
a very, very long way away from here.
Yeah, and I think you built your layout based on British practices, so I presume that your model railway interests when growing up were very much UK orientated.
Yeah, well, I think like anyone, when you first start to get a passion for railways, I guess in some ways you're just interested in railways. My first model train was a Roco double O or HO gauge set, which was... I think it was a German prototype with 3 carriages behind it or thereabouts. But then, as time went on, I just found myself gravitating to videos that featured British Steam. And if you remember Blockbuster Video, we're showing our age here now.
Yes.
The Blockbuster Video near my house, they had a video for rent called Pennine Steam.
Oh, right.
And my parents said, "Oh, well, look, you can rent out that one. We'll rent a movie for the family." And I remember watching it, and I was hooked. I think I fell in love with British Steam more through that video, Pennine Steam. And it was all set around, you know, the Bradford area, Huddersfield and so forth, and the settle in Carlisle. And you get to see Black Fives and 8Fs and Scots and Jubilees and 9Fs and so forth. And I just fell in love with it. And my passions have been in British Steam ever since.
And is there much of a preservation scene back in Australia?
There is, but it's not as big over there as it is over here, and the population's got a lot to do with that. So, I mean, for example, Australia's got 26 million people in it, whereas Britain has got substantially a lot more than that. So the railway enthusiast pool in Australia is smaller, but when you compare it, I suppose, relative to the country size, there's still quite a bit. So in Victoria, where I'm from, there's several preserved railways. There's Puffing Billy Railway. Everyone's probably heard of Puffing Billy. There's the Victorian Goldfields Railway. There's the Mornington Peninsula Railway. The Daylesford Spa Railway. And that's just in Victoria. So there's a mixture of steam, diesel, and rail cars there. Every state in Australia has got something. So one of the best ones, if you should Google this, is the West Coast Wilderness Railway in Tasmania. It's 3 foot 6 inch gauge. 6-inch gauge. It literally runs up a 1 in 16 climb with the rack system.
Yeah.
It's going through fern cuttings where literally they're almost rubbing up against the entire train, and the scenery is just spectacular. Think of the ride to Devil's Bridge up in Wales on the I've just gone blank. The Vale of Rydal Railway.
Yes.
Think of that, but with ferns and everything so close to you, but a rack railway. It's gorgeous. So if you ever go to Australia, Puffing Billy, the West Coast Wilderness Railway, it's a must.
And of course, anybody who's probably about my age, growing up, there was a TV programme that was actually filmed on the Puffing Billy Railway.
Let me guess, it was called Come Midnight Monday.
Yes.
Yes.
And I can remember that quite distinctively growing up. Because we actually got quite a lot of Australian kids TV
I'm
overhead.
sorry to hear that, yeah.
No, like Round the Twist and things like that. Yeah, we
and Neighbours, that awful show that was axed, came back, and is happily being axed again.
Yes.
Or Home and Away, but that's just if you love the beach and bad actors, you watch Home and Away. Conversely, I grew up watching a lot of British stuff because back in Australia, we had Some Others Do Have Them, Are You Being Served, Faulty Towers, Mr. Bean, all what I would classify
and we do apologise.
No, classic British comedy, which I love, and a lot of my humour has been derived from that wonderfully old style humour. I love it so much. Blackadder as well.
Yes.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, I grew up with a lot of the same things. And your love of film and TV is something that started at a very early age. I mean, people may have seen, I know my first introduction to your film working was the independent film The Party Bus, which you wrote and starred in. And actually, it sounds like that was very much a very personal project.
It was,
for yourself.
Well, I mean, I wrote the film over the space of several months, but I used to work for a party bus company, and that whole experience inspired me to actually make a movie. And for anyone out there who is a filmmaker or an aspiring filmmaker or even just a writer, the best advice I ever heard in my life was an interview with Ricky Gervais, where he said, write what you know. And if it's based in truth, it just writes itself. And I thought, what a great thing to do. And I'd wanted to make a movie myself because I'd always been in other people's movies or I'd made short films, but I wanted to make my own feature film. And I thought, right, I'm going to base it on this. And I had access to the bus. I got a hospital for free because I had a friend who worked there. She actually worked in the training department, so I got an operating theatre and everything for free, which is amazing. I got nightclubs, strip clubs, apartments, everything for free. The money that I had to really spend and raise was in catering, fuel costs, and then post-production, so music royalties, visual effects, colour grading, final mastering. That's where a lot of the money went.
I must admit, when I worked in film and TV, we always rated productions by the quality of the catering.
It's not a lie, it happens all the time.
Yeah, if it has good catering, you remember it as being a great production.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, look, that movie, it was self-funded. I wrote it over a few months. We shot the thing on weekends and weeknights, about sort of 40, 45 days altogether. We literally finished shooting the very last pickup scenes, because there's always a few pickup shoots you have to do.
Yeah.
We filmed the last pickup scene 3 days before the first lockdown in Melbourne. So we got
goodness.
everything in the can just in the nick of time.
And was that by luck, or did you know it was coming?
No, that was by sheer luck. We'd planned everything because I'm also a comedian, and we've been in South Australia doing comedy shows. And literally a week after we'd come back from the show, we had planned to shoot these pickup scenes, and then a few days after that, bang, it was lockdown. It happened so quickly.
I must admit, we were actually on air with the Monday Club when they announced it, and I remember it coming out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it, and we were actually on air at the time, and like, wow.
I'm going to say that's not entirely true. We had an idea that it was a possibility. We just didn't know it was going to happen.
I prefer that story. Don't spoil it.
Well, yeah, you know, they always say looking back is always 2020, but looking forwards is always a bit fuzzy.
Well, funny because looking back, it was 2020.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
No pun intended, yeah. But
So-
the good thing with the lockdown for me, because we'd shot the movie, I suddenly had all this spare time to
do the editing.
To edit, so I didn't have to worry about work or anything like that. I could just focus on editing the movie.
So there was no extraneous distractions. You could just knuckle down and
Yeah.
it's almost like they planned it to help you out.
Yeah, well, it may have been us, who knows.
Yeah,
But the only thing I found difficult was anybody who's worked in film before, there's what they call ADR, which is additional dialogue recording. So essentially what that means is you film a location, but there could be a truck passing by or an aeroplane, or the microphone didn't work properly for whatever reason. But the footage is fantastic and the performance was good, so they bring the actors in and they say, right, watch the edit.
And you basically lip sync to yourself.
Lip sync to yourself, get yourself being. So I had to do a little bit of that and trying to coordinate that between the many lockdowns we had. We had like 6 lockdowns in Victoria. Some were like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on. It was crazy. So trying to coordinate that toward the end was difficult. But yeah, the whole thing was done in the edit basically through the pandemic.
So we've got quite a few people in. John JMC, our guru of sound, great to see it. And we also got
Mr. Gay, how are you, sir?
we've actually got the person that you took over from at Hornby magazine. Richard Watson is
Mr.
in the
Watson?
chat. So we always say, if you say his name 3 times, it sort of magically summons him, and he turns up in the chat going, what now?
It's funny. People used to say to me, "Oh, what do you at the magazine?" And I say, "Oh, I'm Little Richard." Literally and figuratively, because I basically took over his role. Richard's heard that before. He won't be offended by it. I love you, Richard. I love your work.
So, I mean, how did you find it going to work in the industry, so to speak? I think a lot of people, from the outside looking in, have a very different view from those people who've managed to get the other side of the velvet curtain.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I mean, I've been a photographer for a long, long time now. I think about 20 years this year I've been a photographer for. And because I've always been making videos and I've been into model railways as well, that portion of it to me, it doesn't feel like work, because photography and video is such a hobby as well as railways. It really is a whole thing of my hobbies are now my job.
Yeah.
The only thing about it is I have to meet deadlines, be creative with ideas for video series and so forth, and of course the most important thing is keep stum on certain things, because unfortunately there are times where I will know things a month or 2 before anybody else does.
There he is, New Junction. The apprentice always outstrips the master.
Yeah,
He knows best.
Jen can attest to the issues of having to keep quiet about things. How many times have you known something's about to happen because someone's sent you a preview and it's like, don't tell anyone, but it's 2 months away.
Don't tell him, Pike. But no, I mean,
Pike. Well, put it this way. I mean, I knew obviously about the Alice Clark Dub D before anybody else did, and we are paid to basically keep our mouths shut because that's part of the industry. And the biggest thing that went through my mind, apart from wow, finally, was why is it only in double O gauge? But but the thing is, I mean, once the world got to see the 3D print, which they had at the time at Worley, we'd known about it for quite some time before that. And that's the thing, that is really the difference between working in the industry to just being a hobbyist. You do get entrusted with information that you need to make sure you just don't divulge.
SHGP Media says, do you chat about it on Signal? Yes. No comment. Plead the fifth. But I mean, one of the things I always say is that I'm almost happier not to be told things, because sometimes being entrusted with information you can do nothing with.
Yeah.
It just makes it a liability.
You know, it's basically it's the professional equivalent of somebody saying, "You'll never guess what someone said about you." Actually, I won't tell you. And you go, "Don't even give me the prelude, for God's sake."
Yeah.
It's the same thing, only professional. They go, "Check out all this great stuff that you can't talk about ever, because your job depends on it."
I mean, I must admit, I remember being sat at a manufacturer and talking with the people from the manufacturer, and being let in on the secret of something that they were working on, knowing full well I had to keep my poker face on because I knew somebody else was already working on it.
Yeah.
And it's things like that which people don't realise how hard it is. And, the things you got to go through. But
You have to be Schultz, basically, don't you? I know nothing.
Manuel, it's like, I know nothing, Mr. Fonty.
I forgot that. Actually, that's brilliant. I know nothing.
I know nothing. I learned English from the book. But I mean, has it changed your outlook on model railways at all?
No, not at all. I suppose the only thing that has changed is I have, I suppose, less time for my own personal hobby. But having said that, because I've already built my layout, it's not like I'm having to continue the build as such. So it hasn't changed from that aspect of things. I think that if you're passionate about something that you love, it doesn't feel like work. And because I do get to combine model railways, photography, and video production all in one, it's enough to sort of keep me going. And obviously, I'm involved with real railways as well, so it hasn't diminished it. If anything, sometimes I have to pretend that I'm passionate about something. So, for example, I'm a steam man through and through, always have been. And don't get me wrong, if I say a model is fantastic, I legitimately do mean that, because I can really appreciate
you can
the tooling
appreciate
and
the quality of a model, even if it's not a model
Yeah.
that personally would interest your area of
Yeah,
modelling.
but when people talk about, "Oh, check out the new Azumas," I'm like, I don't care. But I can appreciate the quality of a model. And that's, I suppose, the difference in the job. Like, I'm not being false about it, because I really can appreciate what goes into the tools. But my own personal interest, of course, is steam.
Absolutely. Anyway, but you're currently working on a new project, and this is combining both the filmmaking side of things, but also the railway side of things. And people might have seen a lot of information being posted on social media about the Silvery Tay.
Absolutely.
Is this a personal thing that you've really wanted to do for a long time?
It is. Well, very long story here. When I was 17, I went through film school. We all get told, this is the way the course is structured. You'll do this, you learn this, you make a few films as a group. But at the end of the year, as part of your final assessment, is you have to write, direct, and produce your own film. And each of us had to do that. And I was thinking, wow, what on earth am I going to make a film about? And I'd always been very fearful about railway disasters. Being a lover of railways, you don't want to see them when everything goes wrong. But for whatever reason, I hit upon the idea of the Tay Bridge, and I thought, well, I've got models, I've got access to a preserved railway. Let's just see how creative I can be. So when I was 17, I actually made a short film that goes for about 12 minutes about the Tay Bridge. And if you're watching now, it's very, very crude. But at the time, I got a standing ovation for it. And the only reason why I didn't win the end of year award is because it was a Telecine prize, and I'd already done that to edit my film on the computer rather than on actual film.
Right.
But I'd always vowed to myself that one of these days I need to do a proper job of it. And of course that comes with research, it comes with more skills as a filmmaker. So doing the party bus for me, going through that whole process of writing a script and getting the cast and crew together and directing the movie as well as acting in it and doing the editing, you learn so much to the point now where I go, right, I can now take a historical story that's a tragedy, but it's part of railway heritage. I can take that with everything I've learned and do it justice. And so that's what I'm doing now. And my whole idea is to make essentially 2 films. The first one is about a 10-minute short film, which would be like a snippet of a longer one, which just concentrates on what happened at the signal box at the Tay Bridge when the disaster happened, because it's a fascinating little cameo story. And then the second project is about a 2 or 3 minute film trailer, which I want to use to pitch the idea of an actual full-blown feature film idea to a streaming service, because if I wrote the feature film and tried to do it myself, I'd need millions and millions of pounds.
Yeah.
But I can do something small and make it really good for enthusiasts to then try and generate interest to a studio, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I mean, that actually happens quite a lot. There's a few.
I saw it happen.
Yeah, and what's the name of that film I really liked?
There's only a few million to choose from.
Debs. And one of
Debs is great.
I really love the film Debs. It's just me. But on the DVD, one of the bonus features is the original pitch film that they made.
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite short, and it's kind of a proof of concept to get the funding and the backing of a studio to make the full film. So I guess it goes on a lot more often.
It's not uncommon. I mean, for anybody who's watched the Saw franchise, and those filmmakers are from where I am, they're from Melbourne, and they went to RMIT Film School. One of the guys who directed it, he had a contact or an agent in Hollywood as a director, and they basically made I think it was a 12 or 15-minute short film of the concept of Saw, and ironically, the jigsaw that they made, as in the character jigsaw, for that short film is the same what they used for the feature film. But that 12-minute short film got them a movie deal, and it was like, right, we'll give you $1 million American. Go off and shoot it, see what you can do. And they shot for 14 days and made the most incredible movie, which turned into a multi-million-dollar franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the Tay Bridge will become a multi-million-dollar franchise, but the thing is, it's a story that has to be told. It's whether it goes somewhere or not. I think the short film in itself, I think railway enthusiasts, we enjoy seeing things that are different. Everyone likes an emotional story. And cinematically and from a railway point of view, I just think it's just something that has to be done. It's never been done before. And as Craig from Iron Horse basically said, it's basically the Titanic version. It's the railway version of Titanic. Titanic on rails, essentially.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, we've got a short promotional a video that you sent in. So we'll have a quick look at this.
Yeah, if you can put it up on screen, we'll have a shove tea.
So we'll come back.
Have you broken it?
I have pressed the button. There we go. It's come up. Then we have a short little promo of the film. And whereabouts are you up to now? You're still raising funds?
Yes, so still raising funds. So to date, and also thanks to Craig from Iron Horse, who's also helped to push us out there, we've raised over £800 so far on our GoFundMe page, which is amazing. We've been talking with a corporate sponsor who's also willing to put some money toward this as well. But even though this is a short film, because we have to, there's location hire, there's costume hire and so forth, we need to go to Scotland and film at the Tay Bridge. We do need to raise several £1,000s.
Right.
But the good thing about donating, whether that's £20, some people have given £100, which is amazing. Anybody who donates to the project gets full access to all the behind-the-scenes content that we're going to actually film as well. So, and you'll get to see that before anybody else does. And of course, when these two films are produced, you get to see them as well. So that's one of the benefits of donating. And I know some people might go, "Oh, it's only behind the scenes," but the thing is, the filmmaking process, I mean, as you know, Jenny, it's such a wonderful process to go. Or for example, we're going to film the carriage interiors at VCT on the Keithley-West Valley Railway, and for people to see how we take the carriages that aren't the real carriages, and use the interiors and put a green screen out the back and superimpose things in there, and to see how we take either the model of the train or the CGI model and work all that in. I think a lot of enthusiasts would be interested to sort of see that process rather than just watching the final results, seeing how it's achieved. You know,
I must admit, I put money into backing a film that eventually did get made, and one of the things that they did was you got to see a lot of the behind the scenes. And what fascinated me was this was actually quite a CGI heavy film. It was a science fiction film, and actually seeing the creativity and the ingenuity that went into making very convincing shots. And they were doing things like they got these like Revell plastic kits of cars and built them and weathered them, and then they were actually filming the car chase initially on a treadmill. And so that they could get the cars to kind of behave like how a car would behave when it's sort of swerving like. And it's seeing how they turned from that to an incredibly convincing car chase was just amazing to watch.
It is amazing. For anyone out there who's seen the movie Hugo, you can find on YouTube, if you type in the making of Hugo railway scene, it's a dream sequence in the movie where Hugo jumps on the tracks, gets run over by a steam engine, and if you've seen that famous photograph of the engine that's dangling off the building in Paris, it finishes in that. But what the filmmakers did for that one is they built a 1/8 scale model of the train, filmed it against a green screen with other models and props around, but then for certain shots that they couldn't use a model for, it was all computer generated. We're going to do exactly the same thing. So we've got the drawings of the locomotive and all the coaches from the Tay Bridge Disaster, including the bridge, and we're going to build a gauge 3 model of the train. Now, for example, to show the train travelling over the bridge, we're going to have the model travelling over the track on a plank, just a wooden plank, but we can superimpose the bridge underneath it.
Yes.
We can film people, for example, against a green screen where we've got the signalman handing the token to the loco crew. And on the green screen, we can actually put the CGI train, we can upscale it and everything we need to do. So combining CGI with real models is how we're going to pull this thing off, because the locomotive and the coaching stock no longer exist. We can use whatever is at our disposal, which is close to it, but to get that proper realism, that's where you turn to computers.
And is that an area that you enjoy doing in films, or is it more of a necessity for the part of the process?
To be honest with you, I just prefer to say, right, what does the project need? But I like to do it creatively. Like for example, if you watch Party Bus, and you can find it on Amazon Prime, for example, or a few other streaming services, we set the whole film in America. And the biggest thing to sell it, even though we shot it in Australia, was the fact that the bus is on the correct side of the road.
Yes.
But the way we achieved that is we got a license plate, we printed it backwards, filmed everything normally, and then when we edited the entire movie together, we literally mirror flipped the image.
But that is exactly how they did one side of the ship in Titanic.
Exactly.
Because they built one half of the ship.
Yes.
And then they had things like different costumes. The sailor cap tallies were printed backwards. The life belts were all printed backwards. So that they could reverse the film and it would appear to be the other side.
That's exactly right. So the thing is, when it comes to get things on film the way you envisage them, you say, how can I be creative? And then after a while you go, right, when does creativity end and money comes into it? So I'm lucky I've got this wonderful person who's going to do all the animation for us. I've got an amazing designer. Actually, spoiler alert, it's the most amazing designer in the world. She's incredible at what she designs. She's doing the locomotive and the coaches for us, and then with their skills combined, we can take her designs with the animators' incredible work and make the whole thing realistic. And so long as we film it properly with lighting and get a good green screen key, we can make it perfect.
Absolutely. I've noticed there's
Sounds
a few people already saying in the chat that they've followed the link and donated. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so
really
much.
Do appreciate that.
And do you have a time scale on the
Yes.
making of the film?
Yes. So we are planning on shooting basically September, October, maybe November if we have to. And the reason for that is we want the days to become shorter again. So when we have to film things at night time, we're not working until
You're not
1 o'clock in
waiting
the
until
morning.
yes.
You've got longer to do it. It's a good idea.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Other things, for example, we can shoot whenever we want because they're interiors or sometimes they are daylight scenes. So we're going to basically start filming toward the end of the year, but because it's a short film and a trailer for a feature, it won't take all too long to film. The next 6 months before we start filming is basically about raising the funds, doing the location scouting, hiring the costumes, making sure that everything is ready to go so that when that particular time happens, we go, right, here's a schedule, bang, 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 get the whole thing in the can. So this is now the time to really formulate how everything's going to play out on the shoot.
And I think the Tay Bridge disaster is one of those things. I think everybody's heard of it, but not many people may necessarily know the full details. Yeah. And is the film going to be looking at exploring a lot more of the nitty gritty of what actually happened?
Yeah, well, as I say, the short film is basically about what happened at the signal box in the moments up to the disaster and after the disaster, because that's a fascinating story where essentially the signalman was on duty, one of his friends who was off duty came to see him, the storm was raging, the wind was battering everything down, the train approaches, they give the token to the train, the signalman goes back into the cabin, and a minute later his friend basically says, I can't see the train, I think it's gone. And they just kept looking out, and the train lights never appeared after it went over the hump in the bridge, and they went off to explore. They tried to run down the bridge, but the wind was just so heavy it pushed them down, and they eventually went down the bank, and it's a cliche, but when the moon came out, they just noticed this massive gap in the Tay Bridge, and that in itself is such a fascinating moment of history. There's recollections in the research I've got from the inquiry of different things that people experienced and said, such as people were finding rivets falling out when they were repainting the bridge. They were finding cracks. People were warning things about speeds and wobbling and so forth. So all these little documented facts are all going to be put into these two film projects, because that's how you tell a story. And I want to tell a story which is as true to all the accounts as possible, bringing fiction in where you have to obviously give an emotional story behind it, but being as true to the facts as possible. That's really the achievement.
And of course, I think a lot of people may see Thomas Bush as being almost like the baddie of this, but actually, I think what a lot of people perhaps now looking back, we talked before about hindsight always being 2020, was actually these engineers were at the forefront of technology, and in a lot of instances, people weren't 100% sure about how things would interact with the natural world, and
there was a lot of ignorance and smug pride at the time.
Yes, but I think as well that people were still learning the limitations of materials, and what may have seemed all right on paper, and they were coming up against situations that they hadn't actually considered could happen.
Well, it's unfortunate with Thomas Bush, because he had done so much before, like you and me were saying before, like the Stainmore line, Kirby Stephen and so forth.
And things like Bella Viaduct actually survived all the way through until the mid-1960s.
When they literally took it down.
And they dismantled it. They literally pulled it down piece by piece. So it survived quite well in situations that are very, very windy.
But I think when you look at Thomas Bush's Tay Bridge, I think the things that stand out for me, it's single track.
Yes.
It looks flimsy. The high girder section was obviously built for tall ships to pass through.
Yeah, because they had ships with big masts.
Yeah, but when you look at the photographs of those high girders, you look at and you go, the cross beams are literally just steel plate. It's very thin, and it's incredibly top heavy as well. So there's no surprise when it went. It just kept going,
Yes.
And for anybody who is a bit superstitious, if you're ever travelling over the new Tay Bridge, which of course still exists, half of the actual supports underneath that new bridge were literally carried across from the old bridge. So
it uses one half of the original piers.
You're still riding over half the old Tay Bridge, and that's the thing. I mean, unfortunately, he designed a bridge where they use wrought iron to build the original bridge, because that's what they used to use. But what they found after this disaster was that wrought iron was actually not very stable. It was prone to cracking. So that got changed to cast iron. There's all these different things. They recommended, we should test for wind. They never tested it. So there's all these things that happened after this, which we happily enjoy the benefits of today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people at the time may have thought it's a lattice girder, the wind will blow through it, completely forgetting that actually it does have a degree of wind resistance.
Yeah, and a lot of weight on top when a train's on top of it.
Yeah, and then you get, it's not the only bridge that's failed, because the designers have failed to take account of a lot of things. I'm thinking of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, Galloping Gertie. It's a very famous one. That the failure of the bridge there is actually caught on film.
Well, there's been many bridges that have failed. I mean, for example, the Westgate Bridge in Melbourne fell down during construction. In the 1970s, there was a Granville disaster, which I actually made a film of called Day of the Roses, so check that out on YouTube. But the train derailed and the road bridge above it, because the supports been knocked out, came down crushing two of the coaches. The bridge you were just talking about failed. There's a bridge in Hobart that failed. And even modern day, there are bridges that
The
fail.
Severn Bridge, sharpness across to Lydney. Which is the lower end of what's now the Dean Forest Railway, that was hit by a couple of petrol barges, and that caused it to collapse.
Well, there's that Amtrak one in the States many years ago, same sort of thing, very low bridge. You got hit by, I think it was driftwood or something, or it could have even been a barge. There was enough.
There was the big one with the ship with the shipping containers.
Of course.
Yes.
How could we forget that?
How could we forget? I can't forget.
Yeah, that was only last year, wasn't it?
Or the year before.
the year before?
Fairly recently, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So bridges do fall is basically the moral.
But you
moral of the
shouldn't
story.
be scared of crossing bridges. But no, I mean, it's a really interesting subject. And do you find any difficulties with the fact that it was so long ago that, there's no film footage and photographs as well are
Well,
quite hard to come by?
happily, there are a lot of photographs. We've done lots of research. We've found a lot of them. I mean, you've seen in that short promo, there's a lot of photographs there. Also, photographs of the locomotive and the coaches that they pulled out, the aftermath, which, of course, we're not going to show a lot of them, but we've found enough photographs to base a lot of things on, such as what Tay Bridge Station looked at the time, what the bridge looked like at the time. We've got drawings of the locomotives. So the good thing is there's enough stuff that exists to go, right, we can use this. You can never guarantee you get everything right, but at least we can say everything that we've got is based upon all the research that we have.
So Zantek asks, did you know the shape of the Humber Bridge with its upside-down wing shape is to make the bridge pull down on the cables in winds to stiffen it? And I guess, things like the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, they learnt a lot from stuff like that, just as they learnt a lot from the collapse of the Tay Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And is it true that some of the undamaged sections were repurposed elsewhere?
I'm not too sure about that, because a lot of stuff was put into the new bridge, but I would have thought that being wrought iron, they would have basically gone, well, that can just go. I need to look at some more research into that particular part. But of course, the brick pier bases still exist.
Yeah, and you can still see them. I mean, I remember as a child looking in books of railways and just being fascinated by why is there extra piers alongside that bridge?
Yeah.
JTG Werewolf says a lot was learned after the disaster. Frustrated Ape says, sorry I'm late. Clock change has knocked me for 6. Gandalf?
The Monday Clubber is never late.
Marcus Muggins, by the way, you have the best name on YouTube ever. Muggins, yes. The locomotive actually was recovered, you're correct. They retrieved it, I think it was on the 3rd attempt. They finally got it out. They restored it because it was the frame and so forth was fine. They restored it, and it got scrapped in 1919, and it was known colloquially by the North British Railway crews as the Diver.
I can imagine, was there a degree of superstition, though? Crews not wanting to use it?
Yeah, I would have thought so, yeah. I mean, would you want to be on an engine that had just fallen off a bridge and killed everyone?
Well, I mean...
Probably not.
One of the most sobering things is that the train that was involved in the Great Heck Rail disaster... the survived. I can't remember whether it was the DVT or the locomotive, but it ended up paired with the train that survived the Hatfield disaster. So somewhere there was a train where both ends of the train have been involved in different major rail disasters because they'd sort of put half of one and half of the other together.
Yeah, see, that's uneasy.
Uneasy. There, Richard Knoll says Class 91, number 91023. I don't know whether that's still on the go. It always unnerves me when locomotives that I remember them introducing to service in a great big fanfare are going for scrap. And you look at it like, God, I feel old.
Well, do you know what I think? Disaster movies, I mean, there are so many movies out there that are based around a disaster, whether it be a real disaster that has been happening in history or a made-up one for whatever the reason of the actual movie. But some of the railway disasters... they are fascinating stories. Like one of the other ones that's really fascinated me is the tale of John Axon, which of course you can YouTube. They did a whole 1 hour folk song about the tale of John Axon, and that is when it was, long story short, the steam pipe near the brake gave way, burst open. They couldn't close the regulator. They were climbing up a hill with a banker down the back. They tried to close the regulator. They couldn't. The fireman jumped down, tried to pin the brakes down, but he couldn't get more than a 2 or 3 down. The driver stayed on board. They went careening down through a trap onto a thrift and smacked into the back of a train. And John Acton was awarded posthumously the George Cross. But whilst it's a tragic tale, when I read that story, I think that could make an amazing short film or an amazing half-hour film. I mean, so some of these disasters can actually they tell such a wonderful human story. And from a railway enthusiast point of view, there's not enough railway movies, and every single enthusiast knows that any time you see anything on railways in the movie, they always get something wrong, don't they? Every single time.
Yes.
So my aim for this is to try and avoid that.
Scanman, thank you so much for donating $9.99 on the Super Chat. So for the Locomotive and Cookie Fund. Cookies.
Absolutely, the Cookie Fund. Absolutely, the Cookie
Yeah,
Fund.
so that's greetings from Montana.
By the way, Jen, do we have a message from TMC tonight?
Absolutely. TMC have asked us to show this particular item. So this is the R30251 Hornby 00 gauge EWS business train pack. This is under £200, so £199.99, reduced at the moment by 39%. So basically a complete train in a box.
£200 for a complete train's not bad.
Not too bad. Is there
Quite good, actually.
is there another coach? And is it 2 coaches or 3?
It's 3.
So that's actually just because the way that it's on the screen, it wasn't quite clear. So you're basically getting a locomotive and 3 coaches.
Look at that. That's down for almost £330. That's down from. That's
That's
amazing.
not bad.
That's a really
It's
good
not
value.
bad. Oh, actually, it's got the new magnetic couplings as well, by the looks of it. So if you scroll up, I quite like these. I know that the jury was out when magnetic couplings first started coming in, but I really like the way it's developed so quickly, and they actually
really
look
has.
like the pipes.
They do.
I must admit that the magnet couplings that I quite like are the ones on TT because they're incredibly close coupled and they look fantastic, especially for the HST.
Yeah.
They are fantastic. So
TT 120 looks amazing.
Well,
it does.
in 009, actually, I used the West Hill Wagon Works ones, and they're really great because they, again, like you say, it's closer coupling, but it's so much more reliable. There's one thing, I hate those chopper-style couplings that they have on 009.
Stevie Film, yes, I am using an existing signal box. So we're gonna shoot a lot of the movie around the Keithworth Valley Railway. So we'll be using Demem's Junction signal box
Right.
for the movie. Obviously, you're not going to see it as Demem's, but we are going to be using that location.
It will be dressed according. I mean, I must admit, having worked on a lot of feature films, it's always quite interesting to see what they're working with and what it ends up in. I mean, going back to just when I was at university, they filmed a lot of things at Durham Castle, which is where Durham University is. So you got to see how they'd morphed rooms that you knew very well into something very fantastical in the film. And
it's still difficult to see the cloisters and stuff at the cathedral. When you see it,
Asgard.
it's Asgard from the Marvel films.
Yeah.
But when you see it in real life, it's like, how on earth did they change this?
Well, the first series of Wolf Hall, I did a lot of the nighttime location shoots with those. There's a lot of National Trust properties, and that was always fun to see how they kind of hid the modern editions and made it look like the period thing.
Well, it's the same now. If you go onto Facebook and you have a look at the All Creatures Great and Small posts, they actually show how they have, set dressed Brassington with different props and so forth and signs to still give the village the flavour of the village, but to backdate it by about 60 years.
They've also, I mean, one of the other things I've worked on is that, and the studios where they have all the interior sets. When you go in there, it's an old mill building, and I've actually I got a photograph because I thought nobody would believe me how they do this. And they make these little miniature mock-ups of the inside of the rooms, and they're all made of plywood and 2x4. and outside of the windows, they have like a big sheet that's got a photograph of a real place on. And the way they light it, when you see the program, you wouldn't know that they're not in a real building.
Well, sadly, the building's been damaged twice now by fire, but Dalton Mills in Keighley, there was a lot of film sets in there. They actually shot part of Peaky Blinders there.
Right.
Unfortunately, half of it got burnt down, and then some other little not so nice person went in there and burnt the rest of it down. So all those film sets are gone. But that's the thing. I mean, and I remember years ago going to Haworth, and I just happened to be there at the time. They were filming Walking the Invisible, if you've seen that, and they literally built over half of the top of Main Street in Haworth to cover up the modern houses, the modern signs, and so forth. And it looks incredible. And then you put a little bit of dirt and straw on Main Street for the cobbles, and you suddenly change it. It's 150 years ago.
Well, the Ewan McGregor series, Gentleman in Moscow.
Yes.
I did a lot of work with that, and Halifax. They turned Halifax into Moscow.
Crazy.
And it was down by the railway station. I actually came in on the train, and I walked up, and I remember looking at what they're doing and thinking, how the hell are they planning on turning this into Moscow? But it works. And fake snow in film and TV is most peculiar.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like shredded newspaper. And it used to be asbestos, like decades and decades ago, but apparently that's a bit dangerous.
Well, here's the thing. Whilst no one here condones drugs, I certainly don't. If you ever watch a lot of these TV shows where you go, how are these actors snorting drugs? It's milk powder.
But is that? I'm presuming that's still not very good for you.
It probably isn't very good for you, but at least it's milk powder rather than hardcore drugs. So
getting my calcium hit, man.
Swings and roundabouts, you know what I mean? It's all no smoke and mirrors, not swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is obviously a very long answer to such a short question, but we'll be filming in locations that exist. So, for example, Tay Bridge Station will actually be Bury Bolton Street. We'll be filming there. I'll shoot other bits and pieces, like I said, the carriages of VCT at the Keighley-Worth Valley, Demem's Junction Signal Box at the Keighley-Worth Valley. When you're shooting at night time as well, like half of this is set, it's actually amazing how you can disguise things without having to really rebuild things around there, because the darkness can hide a lot of detail as such. So, any filmmaking is a challenge, whether it's a small little 10-minute thing or a large feature film. It's just about how you do it creatively with lighting and everything else.
And in some instances, I worked on The Winter King. Was one, and I've actually got photographs of the sets, because what fascinates me with some of that is how they make things that look like rock and the real world. And you go in, and it's that expanding spray foam. Yeah,
you can literally just hold up with two fingers and just throw it at someone.
Yeah, but they'll carve rock faces out of that stuff, and it's just stuck onto plywood and chipboard. And from one side, the set looks incredible, and even when you get quite close to it, what the guy there in the props department was telling me, he says, because everything's now filmed in like 4K and up, he says the stuff that you could get away with 20, 30 years ago, you can't do anymore, because people will sit there and go, oh, I can see the edge of the plywood. Is
that the biscuit fund?
Yes, it is. The biscuits have arrived. Gandalf, no, Gandalf. Let me, I've got to...
A Monday club can't go without biscuits. Stop.
No, Gandalf. No. Get it quick. Take them. Eat them.
You're all good for it.
There's a joke in there which I will not say. I'm not going there. This is a PG show.
Warbler Productions says, I'd love to go and watch the filming when it takes place, or even be an extra in the films. Film work does fascinate me quite a bit. Actually, I mean, is that something maybe you've considered, where people who donate over a certain amount can be an extra in the film?
Absolutely. I mean, it also depends, obviously, where you're based. So if you're around sort of, the Yorkshire, Lancashire area, it's a lot easier because you're close by, or maybe an hour away.
Thank you so much, Simon Snow. Very kindly gifted 5 memberships to the channel. So gifted to Andy Stewart, Phil Metcalf, David Baker, Jennifer Horton, and the Tryhard. Thank you so much. Actually, it's an interesting point there. Growler Blackwood Engage Layout says the bridge over the River Caldew in Carlisle was wrecked by a runaway freight train. It actually closed the line.
Wow.
That was the freight avoiding line that missed out Carlisle Citadel. It completely destroyed the bridge, and they just closed the line. Such was the damage it caused.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? That's what I mean. There's so many fascinating stories out there that could be told.
Yeah.
I think that this one, I think because of the scale of it, and there's still a bit of sort of folklore attached to it as well, especially in Scotland. I think that this one is one of the ones that's probably one of the most recognisable of that time in history. And then I guess the next ones, as we saw before, somebody mentioned Quentin's Hill and of course Harrow Wealdstone.
Yes, yes.
Those are some of the iconic ones. Harrow, of course, being probably the most iconic one. I've seen some wonderful documentaries on that disaster, and it's unfortunate how that entire thing played out. And as much as I'd love to do it, I haven't got the budget for that.
Yeah.
These are quite nice, actually.
Are they? Yeah, they're Fox's Crunch Creams Golden. So,
I can say after doing the taste test, the biscuit fund is well worth investing in.
absolutely, absolutely. So Warbler Productions has another railway accident that could make an interesting film documentary. Would be the Polesworth derailment, a coal train heading south derailed with half the train ending up in the Coventry Canal.
Oh my goodness.
I think one of the issues can be is that more recent disasters, it is very difficult to deal with a subject where it's still within living memory in some cases. With the Tay Bridge disaster, that's far enough back.
It was 145 years ago.
Yeah, so there's it's something that's outside of living memory.
Yeah, most people aren't going to remember that far back.
I remember when
Jenny's the exception here.
Well, when they made Titanic in 1997, I know that there was a lot of controversy with the depiction of a particular character in the film.
The one who ends himself.
Yeah,
They portrayed him as a coward when in fact he was a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually caused a change in the law so that you could actually be prosecuted for posthumous defamation. So if you defamed a person who's dead, it used to be the case that there was no comeback, but they changed the law because of that film.
I remember that particular time. It was a very big story that broke out. I mean, obviously the filmmakers weren't aware of it. They did their research. It's just where he had come from, and everyone in that particular, I think was it a town, an island, or thereabouts, wherever it was, there was a huge uproar about the whole thing.
Yeah. I can't remember the specifics, but which is unfortunate because I had to study it for my law degree. But
Thank you so much, Simon Pitcher. Very, very kindly donated £9.99. Says get more biscuits. I'm sure
we will.
I'm sure Gandalf would get behind that.
Simon, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, they are quite nice actually. Heron Foods, pounded tube. So we could. Zoe, go and quickly get 10 more packs.
I finally finished the risotto. It's come together.
Risotto always strikes me as basically you cooked rice but forgot to take all the water out.
Okay. Right, Jen.
Yes?
Is there any news?
Yes, there is. And you put me on the spot now.
Yes.
I had it all. I had a little cheat list.
Oh, thank you so much, Zantac.
Oh, thank you so much, Santa.
Well,
Very
that's
kind.
five more packets now.
Oh wow, we're going to be Gandalf is going to be eating his own body mass.
We should all see how many biscuit packets we can get for Jenny and Zoe by the end of the evening. Let's get them a box of at least 100. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
100 biscuits. That'll see them through the week.
Yeah.
These starving YouTube creators, they need biscuits.
How fast do you think I'm gonna be?
Please give your biscuits generously.
Yeah.
But of course, donate to my project as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We need biscuits there and all.
Oh yeah. Like I said before, it's like, all productions are gauged by how good the catering is.
Yeah.
I've done some where the catering was so abysmal. That's all. Even years later,
I approve of biscuitry. What a wonderful
biscuitry. Yes,
biscuitry. I love that word. That's
we
wonderful.
we do approve of that, James Petts.
Why do a T-shirt? The Monday Club and the Biscuitry Team.
Yes,
I like that.
I must actually, yeah, because people sometimes actually they at shows they bring us biscuits, which is I'm not hinting, but don't worry, we will be very appreciative.
No, she wants more biscuits.
My belly says
Oh
I
my
do not.
goodness.
Oh, thank you so much, Morikin. Very kindly donated €5.99. Says towards biscuits.
See, they're Irish biscuits. That's even better.
Oh, that is grand. Oh dear. So anyway, in the news, I have to get through this. So I get told off if not. The Hellion Class O2 diesel shunter has started appearing. We actually got one. It is running around. it's on the screen. It's just going across the top of the screen there. And I've got a full review filmed of that model. And I know that Iron Horse has also got a video on it. And it's definitely one of those interesting models. As far as I'm aware, it's never been offered ready to run before. And they're actually going to be doing it in O gauge as well. I did read that the O gauge version of the Class 02 shunter is not that far behind.
Well, actually, I got lucky because this is 2023. We went to film an update with Simon George at Hitwise Junction with Ben Jones from Hellion, and he had the O gauge 02.
Oh, right. So was that like a pre-production or something?
It was the first running sample that they had, and when you see something that small running around Britain's largest O-gauge model railway, it took forever to do one lap. It was going around, I think it had 2 or 3 PCAs behind it, and it took forever to come back again.
But I mean, it is a lovely model, and of course they were a like-for-like replacement on British Railways for the ex-L&Y Pug.
Yeah.
Although it was at that period where British Railways was introducing new diesel locomotives to displace steam locomotives for work that they were pretty much losing hand over fist.
Yeah, so a lot of them actually went to industry as well for the same reason.
Because they ordered 20, and there's actually only 3 that just managed to scrape into gaining a tops number.
Yeah.
But a lot of them lived on in industry. And when you actually look at it, it looks very much like an industrial locomotive more than a BR one. And I guess that's because the Yorkshire Engine Company based it on an off-the-peg design that they were already building in I think it was over 100 of them for industry. But for some reason, BR stipulated a hydraulic transmission, but the ones that are built specifically for industry have an electric transmission. But I don't know what the difference would be in terms of operational differences. But then BR kind of lost interest in hydraulic transmissions because they started getting rid of things like the Class 35s, the 42s and the 52s. You can tell I spent ages reading up on the Class 02 for filming this video, and this is information I need to get good mileage.
This is also why half the biscuits are missing, because the first half got consumed with the research time.
Peachy TT120 says, any news about the Peachy and Son number 2 wagon? Pass me the wagon. Yes, it is here, and Zoe is...
No, this is the number 1 wagon. Peachy, have you got another wagon coming out? Because I know that...
That's number 1.
Yeah,
Peachy?
that one sold out almost immediately.
He did, actually. This is the thing that always cracked me up. I think Peachy as well would agree on this. All of the doom and gloom merchants going, oh, TT120, why are they wasting their time and energy? It'll never catch on. And actually, he did this special commission. It's a Pico wagon, and he sold them out to pre-order.
Yeah, you might notice that it's been quickly put back into the box, because I might have been playing with it.
Yes.
I personally think that TT120 is fantastic.
Apparently it's out.
Love it.
Its wagon's out.
Oh.
The thing I like about it is, and it was something I picked up on right from the start, is the track width
Yes.
is accurate. And I think a lot of other scales come with historical baggage that's now kind of baked in. So 00 going right back to 1938, we have the compromise that was really just because British locomotives are a smaller loading gauge, and the electric motors of 1938, they couldn't make them small enough.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And
there's a whole bunch of theories out there. I've heard that one as well.
And that's based on, I think it was Hornby 00 did the very first UK outline 00. And that was the reason given, was that the technology for making the motors, they worked out if they did them in this slightly weird scale, with the bodies oversized compared to the track, then the electric motor would fit within the loading edge. And when you actually look at the electric motors, they do fill the space in those early Hornby 00 models.
It's amazing because, I mean, these days with the technology that is out there as far as motor sizes and so forth, you could actually do something that's more scale for 00 gauge, but it's so established now. It won't happen.
Lima tried it in I think it was the late 70s with British HO, and it never caught on. Zoe, could you wind the chat, mate? There's somebody who just donated. I just need
Oh
to...
my goodness, JL
So thank you
Railways.
so much, JL Railways. Very kindly donated £9.99. Says, hey, Jenny and Zoe and Jonathan, how are you all? Sorry for being late, and love seeing that little Landy. Also
That's
bought
okay.
myself a large prairie at the weekend and met Charlie Bishop. God, he is a legend, isn't he?
Charlie Bishop is wonderful. Like, he
Is just such a nice guy. He's one of those
He is.
people that there is nothing to fault about Charlie. He is just such a nice guy.
I had the privilege of being paired up with Charlie up in Model Rail, Scotland, in Glasgow in February, where we went around. We were two of the four judges for the show,
Right.
and it was wonderful. But Charlie's a taskmaster. My God, he's like, oh, Jonathan, I think well. I'm like, no,
Well,
Charlie.
he was in the
He's a
Royal
great
Navy,
guy.
so he's got that military ethic where it's like,
Yeah.
well, get the job done. So he's very efficient, but he is just such a nice person through and through. I've never seen anybody find anything bad to say about
I have
him.
a funny story about Charlie Bishop. It was a Model World Live last year. He walked in, and of course our stall is right at the front when you walk in. And he said, oh, Jonathan, he said, have a look at this. And he showed me his phone and said, you know, I've been buying absolute aspect signals. I said, oh yeah, I've seen that on your videos, Charlie. He said, I bought a signal the other day. Have a look at this. And he bought an actual second-hand, a real-size signal, which is that much shorter than he is.
We heard this
And
story.
I said to him,
didn't we?
I said, please put that on your videos. He never did, but I wet myself laughing. So, Charlie, you're a legend.
I know, and he has actually said to me, he does watch the stream. He just doesn't tend to comment because he says, you know, being so well known, everybody's like, oh, Charlie, how you doing? And before you know it, it's just the comments are all dominated.
Well, he needs a burner account then, doesn't he? So he can just be incognito.
Maybe he already has one.
You've actually had that
Maybe
issue
he
yourself,
does.
haven't you? When you turned up in the live stream and just turned it
Oh
through
yeah,
another version of yours.
sometimes, and actually, this is it's really good fun. You find random model railway live streams, and you just pop into the chat and say hello and see what happens. And I feel like a little bit narcissistic doing it, but it is kind of nice to do it. And suddenly, loads of people go, "Oh my God, it's Jenny Kirk!" One of the people with the retro gaming computers, what was his name? DJ Slopes.
Yes.
He turned up on in the comments on a model railway video, and all of a sudden, all the comments were like, "Holy crap!
What are you doing here?
Yeah, it's like YouTube royalty, millions of subscribers, and here they are looking at a video on
Amazing,
how."
isn't it?
Yeah,
Joe, I've actually got one more funny story about Charlie. And this happened at Getz in 2023. We were treating somebody who was poorly. I won't go into the details for privacy reasons, but we're down in first day. We're dealing with the medical team. Quite a serious situation. The doors burst open, and there's Charlie with the medic. He nicked his finger on a nail or something at one of the doors. He's like, I've got a bleeding finger. It's like, well, that's fine, Charlie, but this guy here is about to die. He wasn't going to die, but the severity was Charlie was in there with the bleeding finger, and if you watch Charlie's video, he actually put a photograph of all of us in there, making a joke about it. He came in with a bleeding finger, and this other guy was having a serious health problem. So once again, Charlie, you're a legend.
absolutely. And I heard rumours. I don't know whether this is actually true that. He's retiring from YouTuber of the Year with the Hornby Magazine Awards because he just wins it every year, hand over fist.
I'll be honest, I get a lot of people saying to me things like, you know, who's in the running or what's all this. The only person who knows what the tally of anything is Michael Wilde, because he keeps everything under lock and key. And the thing is, in all fairness, everything goes out to the public. The public are the ones who vote. Nobody from the industry is involved at all.
Yeah.
I literally know who wins the awards when I'm taking photographs of the person winning the award.
Yeah.
I've got no idea.
I mean, I think
the fact that
even
he's
the
won it
pers-
3 times in a year is a credit to Charlie. It really is.
I always joke with him. When all the nominations get announced, I always say like, well, and Charlie's going to win it, but we're seeing who'll come in second.
Well, I suggested that we should just call it the Charlie Bishop Award, to which I was told no.
That's what Sarah Davis says. Just rename it the Charlie Bishop
I know.
YouTube of the Year.
Sarah, I tried, and it's out of my hands. I was not allowed. I got told a very emphatic no.
Oh, what a shame.
But it's like the thing is though about Charlie is he's very knowledgeable and he's very patient as well. When you watch his videos, you don't feel like you're being lectured to. You don't feel like you're being talked down to.
You feel like a mate's talking to you, don't you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, headmaster.
no, well, no, he did tell me off. I said he's like everybody's favourite granddad. You know what I mean? Who has a world of patience, but time for you, and no matter what you're doing, he'll always find the time for you. And I know Iron Horse joked and said he just needs to, in one of his videos, pull a Werther's original out and just wink at the camera. I'll get told off now. When I next see him, probably at Model Rail Live, he'll sidle over and he'll go, everybody's favourite granddad. How old do you think I am?
I'm pretty sure he's about your age, Grandma.
No,
Wow.
he's retired.
So have you, practically.
That's news to me. If I've retired, why am I still going out to work?
Well, we
Enjoy
didn't
biscuits.
tell you.
If you'd like to argue over some quality arguments, get yourself some biscuits. It makes everything so much more fun.
It does.
You can sit here and observe and just go, I don't care, I've got a biscuit, they can say whatever they want.
And a bottle of Pinot Grigio
Grape juice. Yeah.
is also really good at. This is Diet Coke. So
Diet Hokey Cokey, because that's what it's all about.
yes. Oh, hokey cokey.
So, we've got
Where
some
is
other
my shot of
news.
bourbon? Sorry, wrong channel.
We've got some other news. After a long
Oh
wait...
yeah, I was going through the news.
After a long wait, and it has been long for me because I've wanted this since the day I tried the pre-alpha test
Yeah, because
version
you've
again.
had this since I think you got this, didn't you? At
the Great Electric Train Show, when they were announcing Train Sim World 5. Train Sim World VR New York is out at 10 a.m. Pacific time today.
there's no showing the QR code isn't going to cause issues, is it?
No, just show that bit.
So there we are.
Yeah, Train Sim World VR, it's coming out.
Yeah, and Gavin.
Grape juice plus, I love that.
Yeah, Gavin Blackburn. Grape juice plus.
Peter Jackson, no biscuits as Jonathan's eating them all.
No, you did get
No,
that.
that is what they're for.
Don't give the game away, please.
Oh, that's the second packet.
Yeah.
I held a packet of biscuits out and nearly lost my fingers.
What you didn't see before is, yes, Zoe had a risotto. It was a biscuit risotto.
Actually,
I
they
believe
make.
that's called cereal.
Good call, I like that.
If
yeah.
you make your own cheesecake, they make. If you grind them up, they make really
They
lovely
really do.
biscuit
Actually,
bakes.
that would be. Yeah, I'd love that actually.
So yes,
Other
It co-
news. Well,
it comes out at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the 31st, which basically is 5 tomorrow morning British time. So I've pre-ordered, and it will be a special for us to be playing it tomorrow live on my show.
Oh right, so we've put googly eyes on her VR headset.
Of course.
because
It's hilarious.
Why wouldn't you?
because googly eyes make everything better. As I said, as I go looking for a toaster that's got googly eyes, because toasters are always better.
Grunty!
Love it.
Have you seen Return to Toaster Depot?
I like that.
Because
I like that a
because
lot.
for years and years, I remember them mentioning toaster on the travel news on the radio, and then you'd see the signs and it spelt Towcester.
Yep.
And I was like, where is this toaster place that they keep talking about? Why does nobody mention this other one? And it, being an Australian and coming to the UK, did you find some of our place names to be like, what the heck were they smoking when they came up with the pronunciation of that?
Well, first of all, yes, but the thing is, I've been coming to the UK ever since I was about 20, and obviously Dad's English, so I was fortunate enough to be able to, learn words before I embarrass myself. But you'd be surprised, or not surprised, how many people in Australia can't say things like, for example, Chichester, or Gloucestershire, or Warwickshire.
Leicester
or
is one
Berkshire.
of the...
Leicester's
big,
a hard
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Or, as they say in America, Worcestershire sauce, because they can't say Worcestershire sauce. It's basically horrible linguistics for most people outside the UK, where they sound like they're born with a speech impediment.
But I mean, to be honest, a lot of the place names, you have to learn them by hearing somebody else say them before you see them written down.
Having said that, though, some of them are weird. See, in Tasmania, there is a place called, it's the second largest city, called Launceston. However, there is one of those places here, but it's pronounced Launceston, spelt exactly the same. So if an Australian comes over here, or someone from here goes to Australia and goes, "Oh, where's Launceston?" and the Aussies go, "What are you talking about? Now there's no Launceston over here," because they all speak through their nose in Australia. It's the same spelling, different pronunciation.
Well, there's a lot of places in America like that, because the names were taken over by the people emigrating, but over time the pronunciation changes. So Birmingham.
Oh, Birmingham.
It's like,
Well, we get the same thing. People call it Melbourne rather than Melbourne.
right.
Because especially the Americans, they really go Melbourne.
Yes.
And I go, are you stubborn? No, you're stubborn, you American knob.
But it's
I have to
actually...
admit that neighbours did a good job of teaching us how to pronounce things.
Yeah, because basically when they wanted to write somebody out of the show, they got sent to Melbourne. Other news as well. We've had some new HM7000 sound profiles have come out. Actually,
Keith, I'm not trying to say that. No way. Sorry, Jenny. No, I'm not even. No. We all know that the end finishes in go go goth, and that's as much as you get. Get back in your box. All right.
Gogeri.
No. The double L's a C, isn't it? So it's clan.
No, don't say that to her. She's Welsh.
I am Welsh.
You are Welsh.
It's fighting words.
It's clan.
What she
Clan.
said. It's not Welsh. It's a speech impediment.
Yeah, cause, the thing about Welsh is you need half a pint of phlegm just to tackle half the words.
It's the same as in Liverpool.
The thing about the problem with Welsh and Welsh pronunciation is that if you understand the Welsh alphabet and how the letters and the phonemes are meant to be pronounced in Welsh, you've got to forget what you learnt in English, because otherwise, if you go at a word and think, like your brain goes, "I know this, I've seen this in English," and try and pronounce it accordingly, you will get it wrong.
Yeah.
And the one which always grates is when people look at the word Llangollen and pronounce it Llangollen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Are you saying that I've just unlocked a way to annoy you even more?
Ooh. But see, here's the thing. Like, the Welsh have got weird spelling, but they sing everything.
But also...
Hello, welcome to Cardiff.
Oh, it's, there's lovely. Put it be here, be there, be here, be there, be here, there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always teleporting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that ship was unavailable.
Can I just say, my mother will be watching this, and she is very Welsh.
Sorry, Mrs. Kirk.
I'm very upset.
Oh dear. So we've finally found Peachy's wagon. So you should have sent us a press. He probably did. Oh,
This is from it.
when did he send this?
10 minutes ago.
Oh well, I'm sure I just pressed the button. There we go. We got a delayed reaction going on. So Peachy and Son, Content Merchant #2, and Whitby Brewery #9. Are these two different wagons, or has he gone with a different livery on each side?
It appears to be
Wagons, plural.
I think,
wagons announced.
I think what you should be doing here is, have you bought Peachy's new wagon #9? Number 9? Number 9? Number 9? Number 9? For any Beatles fans out there, number 9? Number 9?
Oh, was this
number
the
9,
repeating groove
number
around
9.
the middle of the
This
LP?
is Revolution number 9. Number 9? Number 9? Peachy, I bet you did that on purpose. Number 9? Number 9? Number 9? I'll stop now.
Can I just say, I am aware of the Beatles, but wasn't the biggest of fans. So,
If my dad was watching, he'd have liked that.
I remember the repeating groove on was it Sergeant Pepper's on the B side of the LP. When it got to the middle, if you had an automatic turntable, you never got the experience because it would just reset the arm. but it would go through. There was sound on the actual run-out groove, so when it reached the very centre, it would just go round and round, and they timed the recording so that it seamlessly just kept repeating.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So you could actually leave the record playing, and it would literally play until your record and your needle physically wore through.
Hello, this is here. Peachy's going home. Nice to see you, Peachy. Thank you very much.
Always good to have Peachy in.
DJK66, because the wheels only go around 9 times. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, you get 9 and that's about it. Will I be at Model World Live? Peachy, yes I will be. You can come and thrash me then.
But will you be on or off the clock? Because with working for Hornby magazine, does that mean when you do these shows, you are working?
Yeah, I am working. The good thing is Hornby magazine is a title. I mean, we're employed through Key Publishing. Key Publishing own, obviously, Hornby magazine. We are the ones who do keymodelworld.com.
Yeah.
Those are just the titles. But yeah, we will be on the clock at those shows. But because I walk around doing all the video and photographs and so forth, if you see me there, come and say hi. You'll recognise my tartan trousers that I'm not wearing tonight. You can't miss me.
Absolutely, and because last year was the first year.
It was, yeah.
With all of the doom and gloom that people were peddling last year, did you feel perhaps that it was a daring move to launch a brand new show, or was it a reaction to?
Well, to be honest with
things that was going on.
What happened? We all know what happened at the end of 2023. We lost Hattons. Wally said they were packing up, and of course, the internet went crazy. When Wally walked away from the NEC shows, there was talk about, well, does someone take that spot, or is there a chance to do something else? And so Mike Wilde basically said, look, I think we should do something, but we should do something that's maybe a little bit different from our own brand point of view. So the whole idea of combining rail and scale modelling, because of course we do rail and scale magazines, it was a great way of combining all of our publications into one big show. And that's where the whole thing came from. And last year was phenomenal because model railway people wanted to be there straight away. Layouts were like, yeah, we'd love to be there. The scale modelers were a bit more of a harder sell, but the scale modelers who were there loved it so much that this year we've actually been saying to people we're full, which is amazing because last year
And are you in the same hall this year?
We're in Hall 2 this year. So last year was Hall 11. We're in Hall 2 this year.
Which one's Hall 2?
It's the one that's got the number 2 on it, Jenny. I've got no idea where Hall 2 is, to be honest.
Because the hall that you were in last year, I actually thought that was a great location because it's right by the car park, which meant you didn't have to get on the bus to get there.
I'm not sure exactly where Hall 2 is, but the only reason why we haven't got Hall 11 is, from what I understand, is there is a show on which is literally booked the hall for 3 months, which is why we couldn't get back in there. If we could have got in there, we would have, but we're in Hall 2 this year.
And is that a bigger hall? Do you know? Is it a bigger floor plan?
I think it's slightly bigger.
Right.
It's not the size of Hall 5, but it's definitely no smaller than what we had last year.
And you're going to have Making Tracks back again.
We are. So we've got Making Tracks 4 this time, which is wonderful. So anyone who went to Chester last year to see Making Tracks 4, and if you, of course, you did see it at Model World Live in its first incarnation, it has grown a lot since then. So not just in width, but also in height. There's loads of massive high-rise buildings on there now. Of course, you can buy those kits through Key Model World, which, of course, PJM Phil did all those. Making Tracks 4 is incredible.
They look good.
Yeah, they are stunning, stunning kits. Phil does the most amazing job. So Making Tracks 4 will be there, and you will be able to get in line and drive it like you can at Chester as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. I did see a post from them saying that they were kind of like, 25 days or whatever to go. Oh, we're still not finished it.
Yeah, they said that about Making Tracks 3,
sometimes
Making Tracks wouldn't be Making Tracks unless they had their tight deadlines.
Yeah, I think that was the thing in journalism, was if you didn't have a deadline, you'd never deliver anything.
Yeah. Look, the amazing thing that Pete and the Making Tracks team have done is, apart from building a layout in such a short time that people could do over many years.
Sorry, I just had to jump in. That's that weird one that we thought, hang on, that looks faded.
Yeah, from the front it looks like it's in black and white.
Yeah.
Oh,
with the 20s in the back. What a combination. That's
and actually, funny enough, talking about the 20s, TMC, the Model Centre, has 2 of the new Bachmann Class 20s, different running numbers in Rail Blue, on offer at the moment. And one of the suggestions is to get the pair, because as you saw there, they generally used to run nose to nose as a pair on things like MGR trains. And top tech tip, get 2 different brands of sound decoder so that your locomotives sound ever so slightly different. So you'll have a sound profile from something like Lego Man Biffo, and then a sound profile, maybe the Bachmann Stock or the TXS, and then you get that little bit of variance. And I think that's something which, with sound, perhaps people overlook, that just because 2 locomotives are on paper the same locomotive doesn't mean they sound exactly the same.
No, that's right. And that's the good thing with different sound profiles. We've actually done that ourselves, where we've had, 2 different profiles in 2 separate locomotives, and the sound. We did it with the Manners, actually. The Accuscow Manners, and the variation that you can get in certain profiles is fantastic.
Yeah.
It really is.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for sending that in, Richard.
So that's from Richard Swiderski there.
But GJK 666 has a very good point. You try run the combination like that at an exhibition.
Well, here's the thing now. It's been proven you can do it.
Yeah, we've all seen it.
I mean,
and don't forget, my railway, my rules, and you can always stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit before when we were downstairs about problems with toxicity and trolling.
Yeah.
And is that something you're having now worked for one of the biggest magazines in the UK that that has social media platforms? Yeah. Do you see that as being a problem in our hobby and other hobbies?
Look, it's a problem around the world. I mean, we're not immune to it. We get people trolling us on YouTube, and that's fine. We just ignore it, and if it's really, really bad, we'll just delete the comment. I mean, we've had people attack us personally for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, we can't control people who want to jump onto a keyboard and type something that's inherently negative. We would hope that people are a bit more polite. If you don't like something, you go, that's not for me. But, unfortunately, it's a problem that just won't go away. But I think that most people in the hobby are very supportive and very polite.
I mean, I found it as a hobby, 99% of people in this hobby are decent, reasonable people.
Yeah.
It's got a great
% that are annoying.
Yeah, they're all in this room, by the way. Eating biscuits and drinking grape juice.
You said you wouldn't tell anybody about my burner account.
So we're looking at Dion Wollason's railway here, and there's a lot of very small detail on here.
And I do like the fields full of animals.
Yeah,
really does work well.
Reminds me of where I grew up.
See, I've got a lot of sheep over there, but I stuff like that gives it a nice character.
It really does.
A lot of cranes there in the car park. I think somebody's run them off the track. Class 1, is that a class? No, it's a 108.
I think we've seen some of these angles before because I recognise these buses.
Yeah, I do actually. Those buses actually remind me. There was one of these Urban Explorer videos on YouTube, and there was a disused school that the playground was just full of old buses that had just sort of been dumped there. It just reminded me a little bit of that.
This is lovely.
I've got some nice variety there. And nice variety as well in the trees, getting different colours.
One of my favourite things to see on a layout is actually all the cameo scenes and details that aren't just railway related. I think it's lovely.
There we are, there's King Charlie.
We
saw these the other week, I'm sure.
I think he sent in some different ones as well, but some of them are the same. But Peachy's got a very good point. He's never had a troll come and talk to him in real life. Yeah,
I was going to say that. It's like that people are like big man behind the keyboard, but when you're at a show, there's always a little part of me thinking, are we going to get the tap on the shoulder? And it's like, right, let's pick up where we left off on live.
I've had one, and it was when we were at, I was at the Severn Valley Railway last year for the O-Gauge show, and I had somebody give me a comment about my model railway, which wasn't exactly an inherently overly bad comment, but at the same time, it's one of those things you just keep to yourself. Yeah. And so I just responded in a very authoritative way. And he went, "Oh, you can't say that. You work for the magazine." I said, "Yes, but not today."
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't need to put up with people who treat you badly, whether that's online or in
That's
person.
it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Iron Horse Railway says, except that one guy at Doncaster, Jenny, Mickey Mouse. Oh,
yes.
which one?
We remember that. He came over and started having a go at Craig because Craig had said something about. Well, he thought Craig had been bad-mouthing Hornby.
Oh, yes! Yes,
and Craig hadn't been bad-mouthing Hornby. This guy just hadn't listened properly.
We all know who badmouths Hornby, but we won't mention the name.
Yeah. But I've always
love the quality of these.
I do like. Actually, it's quite interesting. I like what they've done with the security chain link fencing.
Yeah.
It looks like they've. When I was little, my mum had like these trays that when she'd do baking, she'd put all the little buns and stuff on out to cool.
Yeah.
And it had that kind of wire mesh.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm guessing you can just buy that wire mesh.
Yes,
but,
you can.
It's great use of products such as that. I mean, I remember it when I did Great Model Railway Challenge on one of the scratch builders. A lot of people say, "Oh, this is stupid. But actually, what it was trying to do was show people that you didn't have to just throw money at your hobby, and you could improvise with everyday things. And
that's what the Making Tracks guys do as well. We'll come back to that, but carry on. Yeah.
It was just a Melanie, a great modeller, and it was a bird feeder they gave us, and you'd look at a bird and think, what on earth? And she managed to transform that into, amongst other things, she cut up the wire mesh and made security fencing like that. And she actually won the scratch building challenge for that particular episode. I like that tree.
Yeah, and look at the size of it. Trees are huge in real life, and it's really short in scale.
It's lovely, that.
I had this conversation with the guy from Primo Trees. I love his
Primo
product.
Trees are incredible. Like, if you've got the budget for it, you get yourself some because he has got the most amazing product out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some down here somewhere for.
Do you need me to find them?
Yeah, in the wooden boxes at the back.
I see.
I'm redeveloping.
Behind the second toaster, there's 2 toasters. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, 2 toasters, no waiting.
Yeah, Gronksy and Topsy. I made a throwaway comment that if you put a Tops number on a toaster, I'd have one. And then literally a week later, toaster turns up. It's got a Tops number on. But yeah, I mean, these are incredible. Even the packaging, it just shows that there's a lot of care and thought gone into them. And it's the different tree species.
Just bring up just the Jen.
So there you are. That's
Primo Trees will actually be at Model World Live, I believe.
Brilliant.
I mean, he's at most of the big shows. He was at Model Rail Scotland. He was at Getz last year as well. His stall is also just incredibly amazing with the dioramas to sort of show how you can use it. I love those little
dioramas.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's different species of trees, different seasons for those species of trees. Because I think a lot of people forget trees change throughout the year, and also the different sizes. If you look at real trees, they are quite big.
Oh, absolutely,
and I think a lot of people perhaps forget, that what they've actually got on their land. And I'm guilty of this as well. I'm looking around where you are, and technically everything is like a young tree because they're not that big. But real trees dwarf the trains.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, as you move up the scales, if you're modelling an O gauge or gauge 1 or even bigger,
you need a bigger loft.
You need a huge tree to make that work. And it's where I love some of the US layouts where where they've got the space, and you'll see these sort of like logging railroads. With huge trees and huge mountains.
One of the best I ever saw, I think you can sort of look into it by about 2 foot, and what these modelers had done, they had modelled the trees, but when it got to the point where the pelmet stopped, they literally had like the bottom of the tree canopy, so it was like modeller's license as if the tree kept going up, and it was so well done because it was a railroad underneath this massive canopy of trees.
Yeah.
So well done, and like, in proper scale and everything, and it's impressive. That it really, really is impressive, and it's the one thing that a lot of modelers typically don't do because of either space or budget or thereabouts.
Yes,
it's funny how this is what Model Rail Model World Live taught us all last year. A lot of people who have been into model railways looked at the scale modelers and gone, wow, look at the detail you can achieve in literally
Yes.
an A4 sheet of paper.
Oh, we all did,
Because
didn't we?
What we tend to do in model railways is we buy trains and we run them around and we go, oh, we'll put a tree here and a building there, whereas
Yeah.
the scale modelers will go, this is going to be perfect in every little detail.
But-
and it's amazing. It's so inspirational for modelers.
Absolutely. I mean, when we were going around, some of the aeroplane kits were
Oh,
just incredible.
yeah.
But what you've got to remember is that modeler is able to focus all of their time and energy and skills into that small area. And if you've got a large model railway, yes, you could do that, but you'd be building it for decades and decades to produce
What's
Yeah.
wrong with
all
that?
of it to that kind of standard. And yeah, I mean, there are some people out there who do that.
Oh, yeah.
But you're talking about the model layouts that never get finished.
Well, it's layout of a lifetime, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Essentially, that's almost what making tracks is, but they do the whole thing in 6 months because they've got
Yeah.
a team of people behind it.
Yeah.
where do they keep that when it's not at shows?
It's all in Pete's barn, just packed away.
Pete, has he got like a sort of a mill somewhere?
He must
on
do.
his-
He must do.
I've never seen Pete's place, but I can imagine that it must be a modeller's mecca.
Well, I mean, look,
Have you been there?
Oh, many times, yeah. I mean, when we've been filming a lot of things for the making of Making Tracks, we've been there a lot. Upstairs, he has his nice big O-gauge Leamington Spa layout,
Yeah.
Hatton Bank, which is incredible. From an O-gauge person like me, I love it.
Yeah.
But Making Tracks has all been built in the workshop below that, and then when it's not being built or worked upon, it's just stored, literally 2 boards on each other, and it's just on the side.
So the only way they can actually run it all is at shows.
Well, they've got enough room downstairs to basically set up the length of one of them. So when we did the world record last year at Model World Live, they did not have any other way prior to that show of setting up the entire 4 layouts together. That was the only time they had available because it was so long.
But I mean, is there a logistical issue? One of the things that came up at I think it was Great Electric Train Show one year, also when they were at Key Model World Live, is that what you really need is a way of getting across it in the middle, because it's a long way to walk around as it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I think the issue was, I remember
We
discussing...
need to build a bridge across the thing.
The problem with that is you'll get people who just camp out on the bridge. You won't be able to get across it because there'll be people
because there'll be
who hold
someone
the
sat there
space.
watching it.
Yeah.
So you'd need to have
And then
a...
you need all these height risks for health
Yeah.
and safety and harnesses and everything else because people can't walk up and down a bridge. And
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's very dangerous.
And you'd
walking.
have to have it with...
I know you got a bridge at home, but you're not home now. When it's a risk over here. So wrong accent. I know you got a bridge at home, but you're not home right now. It's a risk over here. So you got to do it properly, you know.
Yeah.
Anyone from Birmingham, I do apologise
You
for my
just wait
horrible
until
accent.
you get to the toilet. There's 3 risk assessments you've got to do before you're allowed to take a wee.
That's just to open the door.
Yeah. Sometimes we do joke. It's like, oh, do you remember before they invented health and safety? But it's like, yeah, I remember people getting hurt as well.
Yes, there's some people didn't survive.
Only the dumb ones.
Yeah, it was like Darwin's survival of the fittest. It just weeded out the floor.
How are we still here?
But even with all the health and safety, there are still people who claim the Darwin Awards on a monthly basis. So it just
That
it
is
just,
I love that website.
it just shows that natural selection is still a thing.
It's evolved with us.
Yes.
RG Models, thank you so much. I have to admit, I like to rizz up one of my friends. He's also a great modeler, Martin Wood. He's a driver at the Severn Valley, and he every single time, because I love a lot of BR Steam and LMS, and he's a Great Western man through and through. And he goes, you know that a black fire is only a poor man's haul, don't you? Just a poor man's haul. And I said, yeah, but there you go. But you know that Stanier, he did some great stuff, and he may have come from the Western. That's right, he learned everything from the Western. He stole all the good ideas from Churchwood and all the others. I said, no, he improved them. No, he didn't at all. You got that wrong. I love winding him up. Martin,
And it's funny
fantastic.
though how it was the Riddle standards were largely derived from LMS designs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Funny that.
Jan, before you go any further, we've got a message here from Peter at Let's Make Tracks. The
Uh-huh.
guy who did the Gronk It Up video.
Ah.
Could read this out?
Says, I have a favour to ask you if it's okay. You've shown my Gronk It Up video in the past, but I'm wanting to go bigger. I'm looking to assemble a collection of video footage to put together music videos for my songs. Of course, Gronk It Up being one of them. What I would like to ask is if you could forward this request to your followers even if only for the one Gronk video. Any help you could offer would be greatly appreciated.
We can do that now, can't we, Jenny?
Yeah.
Gronk it up!
Gronk
it up, baby!
Gronk it up!
Gronk it up! Gronk it up!
Isn't it? Oh, and by the way, Simon's Trains, you do not want to request that. You would regret if I was on here on a more permanent basis. You'd be like, oh, get him off, please.
So, sent us a YouTube link.
And I have put that into the thingamajig.
Richard,
There we go.
Richard, I agree with you. Black Fires are absolutely the absolute best engines. I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm sorry, I'm going to
have
disagree
to say,
because the Gronk is the greatest.
yeah, well, yes. Yes.
Jenny loves those diesel shunters.
Yes.
La 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 la.
See, as you can tell from the shelving up there may be another particular class of locomotive that I do quite like a lot.
Oh yes, that's right.
Pass the Gronky on the left-hand side.
Jenny is very fond of her A4s.
Yeah, there's a few up there.
Speaking of A4s, did you see that they actually rebadged Sir Nigel Wesley as Mallard for a time being? I think it was just over the weekend, just gone at the North York Royals.
I didn't realise they rebadged. So,
Wow.
did somebody at the National Railway Museum?
I'm not too sure.
I just need to go in the back and check.
I'm not too sure if they did it just for a photograph, but it was on It was on a Facebook post, and I saw it. That was actually somebody's video as a thumbnail. But it was Gresley, and they put the smokebox number, which was 60022, and the fireman's side had the Mallard plate on it.
And was it the actual plate, or they had a?
I'm not too. I would have think it would be a replica, but it's nice to see when that type of stuff happens. I mean, let's face it, because the Great Central did that years ago with 92214, where they renamed it Evening Star for a gala, even though it wasn't Evening Star, but it was still green at the time.
I didn't realise that they do stuff like that. I mean, I've seen locomotives running with the identity of a scrapped locomotive, but I never thought about them doing it to one that actually does exist just elsewhere.
Well, look, let's face it. The unfortunate thing is, you will never see Evening Star running again. More than likely. Okay, never say never, but the chances are very unlikely. So the fact that there was a green 9F out there for a time with a copper cap chimney, it was a perfect opportunity to actually recreate it, because Evening Star, it's pride of place at the National Railway Museum, and for all we know, it might always just be there. It may never steam again.
So these are photos of, I believe it's Mark Edwards.
This is nice. This is a garden railway, but they've actually got.
Railways.
And is this? I think it's 00, but I'm not 100% sure actually. I'm going to say 00, but that really is nice.
It does look like 00.
So
I think that's the Pico platform edging, isn't it?
I think
you're right. I just wish they'd do that in O gauge in plastic, because when I've been building structures in the garden in O gauge, it actually struck me that there's not that much on offer that will stand up to a bit of rain.
That is lovely. Thank you so much for sending those in.
They are lovely, actually. I've seen some amazing garden railways over the years.
There's a few people saying, "Oh, it looks real," and also that's realistic sizes of trees.
It does. But I think garden railways, there seems to be two camps with this. The people who just, I'll run my trains in the garden because that's how I get enough space to have prototypical length trains. But then there's people who actually create completely scenic garden railways.
My God, it's an amazing one. Actually, we've got, in a few editions' time, we've got a few garden railways coming up. One of which is your typical just raised track with sort of just your typical garden railway as such.
Yeah.
The other one is incredible. Just incredible. And it's all based around Bradford, Skipton and Garstone.
And it's nice in a way when they've used things like alpine plants and dwarf plants and actually made the scenery realistic, but it's actually living.
And scale stone viaducts and so forth.
Yes.
Stunning.
And it's
Stunning.
Trevor Jones.
Yes.
Trevor Jones. Yeah.
He's one of our freelance photographers, yeah.
Well, we got an invite down. We filmed at his garden, and
that was
it just blew me away.
So nice.
Trevor's good.
And
a thoroughly nice bloke as well.
He's such a nice guy. And the thing about that is, I'd seen snippets of that layout in magazines over the years, but to actually finally get to see where all these little, like, when you see a photograph in a magazine, sometimes it's quite infuriating because you're thinking, okay, well, how does that tie in to everywhere else? And finally, I was able to see the layout in its entirety, and I wasn't disappointed.
You
It was
should have seen the
incredible.
grin on her face when we were going down to see it. Because it was basically, she was like, I've seen this so many times in magazines and now I get to see it for real.
Yeah, it was things like, I now know where that tunnel goes.
I had the same thing when I went to Pete's for the first time and saw Leamington Spa. I'd seen everything in magazines and everything else that was out there, and to physically stand there and look at something that you've idolised,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
And you get to see the things that you can't see from a photograph, because the photograph is a fixed position. It's like, well, what if I want to look at the other side of that? And I think that's why going to exhibitions is still so important. You know, some people say,
Yes.
oh, you can just see it all in a magazine or online, but actually
It's not
being
the same.
able to see things at your own pace and see all the bits in between and focus on little bits that particularly interest you is really quite important.
It is, and the thing is, I mean, when you see photographs, you don't always get the sense of scale as such. You know, sometimes a huge layout can look sometimes small on a photograph. You know, so
Yeah,
when you
or
actually
bigger.
get a chance,
I mean,
when you get a chance to
people-
see it in person,
A lot of people do say that this is smaller in real life than they thought it was, having looked at the stream.
the times I've heard that.
But actually, Ben Tullett, where's it gone? I think there, Ben Tullett, the tram garden layout in Australia is always also amazing to see. Have you seen that? Melbourne Sparks, I think, is the YouTube channel.
No, I haven't actually.
And it's G scale, primarily LGB with trams, but it is the most incredible garden railway, and his house must be on almost like a cliffside. It's a very,
Oh wow!
it's the kind of garden you'd look at and think, I wouldn't have thought you'd get a garden railway in that, but he's managed it, and he's managed it so perfectly.
But this is the thing with railway modellers of any scale and gauge. We seem to achieve the impossible.
Yes.
Because we go, I could do something with that space. I could put the model railway over
Yes.
there, and yeah, I mean, in the garden, of course, you have got a bit more flexibility, and you go, I'll make it work. And you
Yeah. And I always say, this is a hobby that gives you so many transferable skills.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're stating the case for model railways to a younger audience, it's like, well, how many hobbies give you experience of planning, woodwork, electrical work, the creative side of making things, you know, exercising your imagination, your patience, forward planning, and also confidence. I always say confidence is the
absolutely.
big thing.
Yeah.
And you know, when people say, you know, oh, what skills do I need to learn? It's like, well, actually, you just have confidence in yourself. And what I've discovered over the years, I'm sure you're the same, is that when you allow yourself to succeed by trying something, by giving it a go, actually, quite often you're very pleasantly surprised that
Well, you
things
are,
aren't as daunting as you might imagine them to be from the point of view of not having yet done them.
Well, the other thing is sometimes you'll tackle a certain project, and you might stall halfway through it. And that happened to me with my layout. I was building my first scratch built structure, which was the overbridge on my layout, and I got halfway through it. And oh no, Jenny, I've had enough. Thank you very much.
You will.
Anyway, I got halfway through it, and I just drew a mental blank. I couldn't work something out. So what I did is I basically just left it alone for about 2 months, and then one day I just happened to look at it, and I thought, oh, I've got an idea. And I just tried something, and within half a day, I'd finished everything, and I thought, why couldn't I have had that insight 2 months ago?
Yes.
But,
Sometimes
and
it's
of course,
just there.
and now, of course, what I did is I've built a replacement overbridge now, which is it's a fraction lower, a lot wider, more detailed. But I had the confidence to build a second one because I had the confidence to try to build a first one.
Yeah.
And with model railways, that's the thing, is just give something and go, and that's what's so good about the second-hand market.
Yeah.
If you want to try scratch building, start using Fomex, for example, because it's cheapish, it's easy to cut and glue together, it's very forgiving, and if you make a mistake, who cares? Because the second time you do it, you'll do it even better. You know?
Absolutely. And speaking of trying things, we've got a video here from Blairgowie Forest Railway. It says, please find a short video attached of my progress building and detailing the chassis of an old model of an LNWR 442 precursor tank locomotive.
Oh.
So this should be interesting if you could press and see buttons these.
Hit the
Beep, beep.
lever.
Here we go. Continuing work
Ooh,
on
that's lovely,
brake
isn't it?
hangers and brake shoes.
So, if you could persuade any manufacturer to make any model ready to run, is there a particular thing that you're holding out for that you would love to see on the market?
Look, from an O gauge perspective, because of course that's what I model. I would love to see a manufacturer do probably a 4MT tank.
Right. Okay.
Because Barkman Brassworks many years ago did one. Whenever they come up, they go straight away second hand, whether they're detailed and weathered or not.
Yeah.
They are such a wonderful loco, and with O gauge, they're obviously a fraction bigger than the 3MT, but they're still small enough to have a modest size O gauge layout. And
Right.
and the 4MT tanks, they've just got this gorgeous look about them. That and probably, well, I love 8Fs, so more 8Fs, please. I'd love that.
I must actually, 8Fs are lovely, and whilst I do actually quite like the most recent tooling that Hornby did of the 8F and 00 isn't too bad, but it's been around a while, and I do feel that there needs to be more 8Fs in this world.
Oh, there does. I mean, look, I think with me, I don't think so much it's a matter of saying, oh, I'd love to see this engine, because the good thing is we've got all these different manufacturers now who are doing things that people never thought possible. Like, look at what Rapido's doing. They're taking chances on certain models. For example, Ivor the engine. What a great idea. And the Jones Goods and the Cali and so forth. All these wonderful models that, wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago because they would have needed to have so much. So I think that's really quite good. So I can see a time where most things will eventually get represented.
Well, I do often get asked that, do you think they'll run out of things to do? And the honest answer is not for a very long time.
No.
When you actually look at how many different types of locomotives that there's ever been, it's huge, and they've merely scratched the surface.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of pre-grouping that hasn't been touched.
Yeah.
Loads and loads and loads of pre-grouping.
Even things that lasted long enough to get into BR service.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my personal favourites would be things like the Great Central S1 tanks, the big 084 Wath Daisies, but also London and North Western Railway. I think it's the 1185 class, which is the tank version of the Super D. So it's an 082 tank locomotive, and I think it was 4 of those lasted. The latest one about 1953. So that they turn up in BR ownership. And when you see pictures of some of these, they're incredibly interesting looking locomotives.
The one that actually, getting back to your original question to me, that I would love to see in model form is the Lancashire and Yorkshire. It's a 460. It's the Class 8 Clawsons. Not the Clawsons, sorry. The Class 8...
Wasn't the
I'm just drawing a blank, actually. But the Class 8. So they're 460s. Dreadnoughts. The 460 Dreadnought, they are... gorgeous locomotives, massive boilers, and they're wonderful. And the last one did survive into BR, but they were oil fired. They go from Lancashire and Yorkshire to LMS, LMS Black, LMS Red, oil firing. Beautiful locomotives. I'd love to see that represented in model form. I'd have one of them.
And I mean the other one as well, which I always bring up, the most mass-produced design of any steam locomotive, the DX Goods. London and North Western Railway DX Goods, they got in a lot of trouble for building a load for the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway. They were all withdrawn by late 1930s in the UK. However, there was 5 were sold to a Belgian company and actually ran in Belgium. And wow, I do like their display cabinet.
This is Steve Worthington's railway.
We have visited this layout before. It is really nice.
65 feet long.
It's very big, and he's actually got it on, I believe it's a mezzanine, so his car parks slightly underneath.
That's amazing, though.
So it's in a garage, but the car drives in, and because this is on a raised area, the bonnet up to the windscreen of the car is underneath this to make best use of the space.
Amazing.
Which is actually a great idea. I think a lot of people say, I don't have the space. It's like, actually, you can even in a very small space, you can get a decent layout. But ideas like this show that space you didn't know you had, you can actually make use of.
Exactly. I mean, look how close it is to the roof. That's actually a wonderful use of the space, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is his 200th video.
Wow.
Video. Wow.
Yeah.
And this is a
Respectful.
lovely layout for watching trains go by. You can see you can get some really nice long trains. And that's one of the things, actually, when I had a layout in the garden that I liked about it, because you could have like a freight train with 80 or 90 coal wagons on, and it didn't look like it was cramped in. And I love these. The LNER Coronation stop.
That is a stunning set of coaches.
And
Hornby outdid themselves with them. They are stunning.
I was actually very surprised that when they made their announcements this year, they didn't announce another run.
Yeah.
Because I would have... all I managed to get was the observation car. They were so popular, they just disappeared.
They really did.
And there's the Jones goods. I do love that colour, the kind of ochre livery. I've got the holly green one. Which, I do really like, but there's something about that
Valley's
ochre
56XX has a theory that Worthington has an entire collection of Jaguars underneath his layout.
What, there's like a C-type, a D-type, an E-type, and an XK120.
Wow.
And a full castle on there, that's amazing.
Oh, I'm looking at the private owner wagons. I've just put all of my private owner wagons into display cabinets because I got sick and tired of. I was like a womble. I was just like finding all of the special commissioned ones that shops used to do, and they just go in drawers. And I thought, no, this is no good. Just hoarding stuff and never seeing it. So I put everything into display cabinets, and it's nice to see them running.
Valley says it's not a joke. He actually has an entire collection of Jaguars underneath that railway.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow,
that is amazing.
That is so cool.
But it is like I've got a classic Volvo outside. That's one of my other hobbies. We are allowed more than one hobby.
We are definitely allowed to have more than one hobby. Like biscuits. Biscuits is a hobby, and we do that over here, don't we?
Yes.
But
no, I mean, what I've actually discovered is a lot of the skills I've learned in railway modelling, I'm able to transfer into things like classic car repairs. Yeah. Because the biggest thing is the confidence, but also feeling confident to delve into auto electrics.
Yeah,
there's that little Pandora's box.
Because you got used to soldering and working out wiring issues because you were doing it here in an area you were comfortable with.
But also things like bodywork, feathering paints, to blend in body repairs and stuff. And, all of that is skills that you learn when you're doing things like making models and weathering and kit bashing and stuff.
I think that weathering is actually one of the best skills to learn, because once you've mastered even just a basic form of weathering, it's amazing how you start to look at all the other things that you can do, and your modelling seems to almost take a leap up after that. It really is amazing.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's like there's certain things with railway modelling where when you fold your head around doing it, suddenly it's like a quantum leap, and everything jumps forward. For me, I think ballasting was one of those things. Working out how to do ballasting, and all of a sudden, for me, my model railway went from looking like a toy to looking like a model.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's what you can do is just amazing. Oh, look at that!
Thank you so much for sending that in, Steve. That was
brilliant.
Thank
you so much. So, oh my word.
It's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock already?
Wow. Yeah. That just means we talk too much.
It does. There's a few people saying, actually, you need to come on more often, actually. They've really enjoyed having you on.
It's not me, it's the biscuits. It's just the biscuits.
I think the grape juice plus might have had some...
grape juice and biscuits and Coke. What a combination. What an absolute combination.
Absolutely. But no, it's been great fun. And, of course, don't forget to check out... we can post the link again on the Silvery Tay, the film, and really looking forward to seeing how that goes.
I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, look, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to research it. What we're starting already is fantastic. So if you're interested at all, if you go to GoFundMe and type in the Tay Bridge Disaster, you'll find it. And as Jenny said, hopefully she'll put up a post as well, which will be amazing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And look, thank you so much for coming and talking to us, not just about that film, but also your film career in general. And you work at Hornby Magazine, and of course, Hornby Model World Live is in, I think it's 25 days.
Yeah, it's coming up very, very soon.
Hall 2 at the NEC, apparently Hall 11. It's great if you came in a car, but not if you came by train. So Hall 2 is just a little bit easier for people to get to if they're arriving on public transport. So, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for the link for the GoFundMe so that I don't have to type it in.
It's down the bottom.
So, whilst the monkey of cupboardness.
There we are. You get there in the end.
I was going to press the button. You see, I realised you were looking for
that.
the link.
Don't do that.
And of course, thank you so much,
you.
Andrew
look at that.
Bettis.
Two more packets of biscuits.
2 more packs of
Andrew,
biscuits.
You're an absolute legend.
Absolutely. It says, for the biscuit fund, thank you so much. I'm sure there was other news I was supposed to tell people.
Well, we talked about basically a train in a box from TMC, which I thought was rather cool.
But I think one of the biggest things, so I'm going to... Here, come here, you.
The beep beep.
Yeah, and there you are. Stay alive goodness. Look at that thing roll.
Wow.
Let me just bring it up so it's just
Still
you on
going.
screen. There you are.
Still going.
That's amazing.
I must admit, there's in the hobby at the moment, there seems to be a massive fascination for stay alives. Where I don't know what people are doing with these things. I mean, maybe they're racing them across the carpet or
They
something.
must be, yeah.
But it just happens to be the only stay alive I had to hand was one that was vastly overpowered for this little thing. But I mean, that has been chugging away all the time we've been talking, and it's, for me, it's probably. In fact, actually, look, it's the wheels have stopped going round, but the lights are still on.
Oh, they'll be on for a while, I'm sure.
So
They'll be on for a long while,
it's a
I'm sure.
lovely model, and I can't say what's going to be in the model of the year because. I just don't know. Nobody tells me anything.
Well, it's
but I'd
too early
say
to
that
decide model of
for
the year.
00 Model of the Year is a definite contender. I do love that model, and it's the Holy Grail. It's a new model of something that's never been offered ready to run before. I think there's sometimes a bit of criticism that companies come in and they go, we're going to do our version of X, Y, and Z. And you think, well, wasn't there like a new tooled model of that just a few years ago? And I do love to see things that we've never had before.
Do you know what? There is actually one thing I want to say about people do tend to talk a lot about duplication on why is this company doing something that this company's already done and why have we got duplicates or triplicates. But the thing we all have to remember is there are people out there who will prefer one brand over another. And the other thing is these companies sell all over the world. So they're going to go out to America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. You know, so having duplicates or triplicates may not, you know, it might be too much for Britain, but it's enough for the world. So I think that there really is room for everything, even though people do tend to think that there's not.
And I think as well, you know, you're more likely to get livery and identities that you want if two companies are producing the same base model but with different liveries, different running numbers. And we saw that with the Lomax, where Rapido brought out theirs and Clark Railworks brought out theirs. But there's actually no duplication between the running numbers. So actually, the end result is that you can happily buy from both. And
of course, Rapido's doing the same thing with Hornby with, is it the J50?
The J52.
52,
And I think people forget as well. I've seen this time and time again where Company A announces something, and then Company B the following week announces the same thing. And people go, oh, they're just copying it. It's like, no, there's like 3 or 4 years worth of work behind that. And you can't, you know, you don't just bin that, especially if you've gone to tooling. You know, there's a lot of money at stake, and in a lot of instances, and I think very much with the J52 was the case, that both companies were completely committed. It's like, well, we can't back out. There's so much money being spent.
Exactly.
The Lomax as well, I think they were both pretty much in production at the point that each company learnt that the other was doing one.
Right, we're going to have to have a quick message from our sponsors now before we head off.
So thank
so
you
much.
everybody, and here's a word from TMC, the Model Centre. The Monday Club is proudly sponsored by TMC, the Model Centre. Check them out at themodelcentre.com. The website features extensive stocks of new models as well as selective pre-owned items where you can track down that bargain you've always wanted. Pre-order with confidence all of the forthcoming models from all the manufacturers. TMC also offer a renumbering and renaming service so you can get the exact identity of locomotive that you want. Why not also check out their value weathering, or go for something incredibly special with their bespoke service where you can choose from a more extensive weathered look right through to custom graffiti either off the peg or to a design of your choice. Check out TMC today at themodelcentre.com and start your model journey. So there we are. Big thank you to TMC, the Model Centre, and don't forget to check out that Class 67 train pack that they've got on offer, £199.99, and that is a full train in a box. They've got that in their sale, so do check it out. We did post the link a while before. 3 coaches and a locomotive. What is there to be disappointed with?
And I'd like to say a big thank you to Martin Vegas as well. You're far too generous, man, and I'll look forward to the cable, but you really need to treat yourself, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And don't forget as well, coming up later this week, we have the Roker Prototype Models tank cars. This is an all-new run of the Santa Fe tank cars, and these are, these are in new liveries not offered before, and also the really quite interesting fire train version with all of the extra fittings with the hoses and the pumps. So do check that out. Plus we've got the Homer Simpson auto racks as well that they very kindly did some bespoke models for us. So check that out on Friday, and next week we'll be having the Hellion Class 02 review as well. But a huge thank you to Jonathan Newton, who's joined us here from Hornby Magazine. And you're probably I'm thinking you're probably the most high-profile person that we've had in person. I think.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Yes.
I had
there's
Richard Brighton.
There's nobody even more high profile than Richard Watson, let's be honest.
He won't come on. He's frightened of doing live stuff.
He only won't come on because he thinks you won't let him go.
I'll put him in the modelling dungeon along with Les.
Probably also because it's about a 2.5 hour drive for him to get here as well.
Well, there is that. There is that. But I must admit there was a couple of manufacturers. Oh, we could be on it live, and I'm thinking, yeah, I really think that like some of these multi-million-pound companies would love to come and just sit and hotbox it in my loft.
It hasn't been all that bad.
Climb up this rickety ladder. You know you want to.
That's okay. And listen, like I said before, hopefully I get to see you at Model World Live. If you see me walk around with my camera in my hand or thereabouts, come up and say hi. I'd love to meet you all. Never think that you can't talk to us. So please do, and yeah, Jenny and Zoe, thank you so much for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Look, thank you so much for making the drive here. And if anybody is wanting to regale Jonathan with biscuits at Key Model World Live, these are the ones you want. They are really quite nice. I can recommend them as well. We're not sponsored by them.
Grape juice.
Yeah, pretty agree, yeah, grape juice. Yeah. But anyway, you guys take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Oh, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I keep forgetting to mention that.
The train now departing is the 2109 service to Butts Farting, stopping at Milith Tattis, Tattis Newydd, Grove Street Yard, Bolton Trinity Road, Packham on the Back, Eindhoven, Pittsburgh somehow, all change at 3 cops for Lord Hereford's Knob, and then on to Butts Farting. That's 2109 service to Butts Farting.
Are we there yet? It's the stupidest thing, but
I feel sick.
I'm sorry, but the train has been cancelled due to a staff shortage that we knew about 3 days ago. We do not offer any substitutes. We recommend you take the bus.
We recommend you sod off.
For all ticket season holders, please learn how to fly.
Hit the button, Zoe.
what button?
Make the picture happen.
It's gone to sleep. There we go.
Oh, I'm getting dizzy. So thank you, everybody. Take care. Please hit that like button. Share the stream on social media. Let people know about the Monday Club goodness. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you very, very much to all the generous people who have donated throughout the stream. You guys take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Don't know where. Don't know when,
but I better see you all at Model World Live. Good night, goodbye.
Yeah. See you, everybody. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Because you don't want aspirates on your door.
Yeah.